colored folks talking about slave me. Wasn't nothing wrong with slavery. At least we got good food back then. White man sure could be your
Where's Gangsta-licious?
Say that again? I couldn't hear you over the sound of me myself.
What up, fam? Agent O here, and I've got another Thrant. Didn't expect to have one this soon, but I saw that Cliven Bundy video, and I was like, yeah, I gotta speak on this. So anyway, as you can see from the Uncle Ruckus clip that I played earlier, it's a funny clip because, you know, Uncle Ruckus is that dude that would wholeheartedly believe that sort of thing. And I love the Boondocks. I love the things that they point out, and they use comedy in order to point out these things that are just very wrong in our society, you know, when it comes to just pop culture, you know, race relations, and you know, this, that, and the third, you know, whatever Aaron Magruder feels like speaking on, he uses that show and his strip to speak on things. And the thing that makes that clip so funny is that there's a lot of truth said in that jest, in that, you know, in that comedic clip. And it sucks that it's sad that there's people that still believe that this sort of thing is true, that slavery was this great thing, and that black people should be happy, you know, Africans and African Americans should be happy that we got to go through that, or I didn't get to go through, but my ancestors got to go through slavery. And it boggles my mind how people can believe such a delusion. And then you have this guy, Cliven Bundy, who comes out of nowhere with his, you know, I can graze my cattle wherever I want and not pay any fees, even though he's completely wrong on the matter, you know, but yet he feels he can do that. He feels he can do that, and he feels like he can speak on his quote unquote knowledge on the Negro, on black people. The fact that you even said Negro already tells me that whatever logic you have after that needs to be thrown to the wayside, because you obviously don't know what you're talking about. You know, he went on to say things like how he feels that black people would be better off. Like, he said he wonders if black people are better off as slaves instead of living in these subsidized housing and not having any jobs and just being bored. They're raising their families, but they're being bored because they don't have any jobs or anything to do, no education, blah, blah, blah. First of all, that's not all black people. You know, that is a small percentage of black people that are on government assistance. And take it from me, like, my parents, they still own rental apartments, and they rent to anybody regardless of race, color, creed, and regardless of your financial standing, because they do rent to people that are on welfare, and that's both black and white people that are on welfare. So, and trust me on this when I say this, that there were just as many, if not more, lazy white people than there were lazy black people. I mean, it was laziness across the board when it dealt with people, certain types of people who were on government assistance. Because you had some people who were on government assistance and they still held down a job. It just wasn't a high-paying job, but they paid their part of the rent. You know, the Metro or the Metro Housing, you know, company or whatever that handles, you know, the government assistance. They would help pay for part of the rent. You know, usually like the majority of it, and then the tenant would have to pay, you know, a small percentage of that monthly rent. So you had people who kept the place clean, who held down a job, who, you know, maybe they were just using it as a temporary thing until they got back on their feet. And then of course you had other people who were obviously taking advantage of government assistance, and they're using it to just not do anything, or they're using it, you know, to get money while they have some kind of side hustle that they're doing, you know, that's off the books or whatever. You have that. You know, you have that with black and white people. So for him to just talk about this like it's only a problem among black folks is ludicrous and delusional, and it feeds into that bullshit right-wing rhetoric that you keep hearing, that, oh, black people, they're always on welfare, they're always aborting their kids, they're always cheating the system, when I see just as many white people committing the same kind of welfare fraud all the time. It's not a matter of race. It's a matter of their being a product of their environment. A lot of people are like, I'm going to get it how I can and I'm going to live how I get it. Unfortunately, they take that thought process and that saying to heart, and they go out and they don't do shit. They don't amount to shit. So I wish people would get it out of their heads that this whole type of behavior is just regarded only to black people and nobody else. Another thing that I really can't stand is that, once again, we're giving people like Cliven Bundy, who are basically ignorant racists, a speaker with which to spread their ignorance, basically. The guy doesn't know anything about black people. The guy lives on a ranch in the middle of nowhere, for all I can tell, and he thinks that he's an authority on the behavior of black folks, because he went to somewhere in Nevada and saw some poor people, living their life, and not really doing much with their lives. So that to him meant that all black people were like this. Like, how can anybody be so dumb? I mean, I'm gonna chalk it up to him just being old, because it behooves me to think that anybody in this day and age would actually believe that sort of thing. But then again, we have news programs like Fox that find ways to slide this kind of thought process onto the airwaves for everybody to hear. And to hear this coming from a guy who basically isn't paying his taxes for his cows to graze and all that, because I looked up what the whole situation was with his whole cows and grazing on federal land, and then I came across a Young Turks video where one of the Young Turks hosts, Cenk Uygur, he actually breaks down exactly what the whole deal is and why this guy is actually in the wrong, and that the fact that he only got his cows back was because the government didn't want any of the government workers to to possibly end up in a violent situation where they could be shot. That's the only reason why he got his cows back. But the guy is totally wrong, and Cenk went in. I'm telling you, he went in on the fact gathering. He did exactly what our mainstream news like CNN and MSNBC and the abhorrent Fox News should be doing, which is fact checking and actually doing some legwork and finding out all the ins and outs of this story, so you can actually report on actual news and actually tell the truth, which a lot of these mainstream news companies just aren't doing. Anyway, I'm going to put a link to that video in the description so that you can check it out for yourself. You can see just why this guy is so wrong, and it's unfortunate because the mainstream news doesn't point these things out, and now you've got all kinds of crazies out there backing this guy up when he's essentially in the wrong. They see a bunch of ranchers with guns and they think, yeah, Second Amendment rights, this guy's going for his, but really he's wrong because he's stealing from the government. He's actually stealing from all of us, because that money goes into the government and it goes to preservation, land preservation, and things of that nature. I'm not going to get all into it. You can watch the video, like I said. I'll put it in the link. You can check it out for yourself. But back to this whole black people, like, I wonder if black people are better off as slaves than living in government subsidy. Like, he's trying to say that government, like, welfare is basically another form of slavery, when it's not. Like, you can get yourself out of welfare. I know people who have gotten themselves out of welfare. They may have ran into some hard times and they used that extra help to get what they needed until they got the job that they were looking for, or they finished their schooling, or whatever. Basically, they used it so as a bit of a crutch so that they could get themselves to a better life. And that's really what welfare should be used for. But yeah, you're going to have people that are going to abuse the system. You're going to have people who get on disability, and they just stay on disability because it's a lot easier to sit around and collect a check than it is to actually go out and work for the check. And it's funny, I think the irony in welfare is that they could actually find these people that are pimping the system, basically. But ironically, it's too much work for the people who work in these welfare companies to find out who's not working. Like, that's hilarious to me, because I know for a fact that when it comes to disability, like work disability, they do actually go out of their way to try and find people who are, pimping the system and taking advantage. They might not catch everybody, but they do actually try. So there is that. Unlike, as far as I can tell with welfare, it doesn't seem like they're working that hard to try and catch the ones that are, taking advantage and just collecting a check and not doing anything to try and get themselves off of it. But anyway, that's a little bit off topic. I'm going to get back to what Cliven Bundy, this just old ignoramus, had to say about slavery, and that slavery was, and that even putting that slavery was in any context a good thing is just asinine. I mean, look at this guy right here. Does this guy look like he was happy being a slave? I think not. If for all these people that think that slavery was such a great thing, I wish somebody would ask them, well, why don't you do it? Why don't you become a slave? Why don't you work for basically nothing, have absolutely no human rights, and be treated as less than a human being simply because of the color of your skin, and be worked to death in the fields, working in the hot-ass sun, picking cotton, and getting whipped every day, and having no hope for, tomorrow. Let's see how you fare. Let's see how Cliven would fare working one day as a slave. That man wouldn't make it. He would die right there in the field, because he wouldn't be able to do it. So for people to sit there and say that it's such a great thing without ever experiencing it for themselves, or actually being back there in that time when slavery was okay, and saying that, yeah, this was such a great thing, like, you have no room to talk. You can't talk because you don't know, man, because you weren't there. So anyway, he wanted to elaborate on what he was saying, and so he went on to further say, that's exactly what I said. I said, I'm wondering if they're better off under government subsidy, and their young women are having the abortions, and their young men are in jail, and their older women and their children are sitting out on the cement porch without nothing to do, I'm wondering, are they happier now under this government subsidy system than they were when they were slaves? And they was able to have their family structure together, and the chickens and garden, and the people had something to do. And so in my mind, I'm wondering, are they better off being slaves in that sense, or better off being slaves to the United States government in the sense of the subsidies? I'm wondering. That's what. And the statement was right. I am wondering. Like, oh my God, you're just being redundant at this point. Like, you're not even trying to say, you didn't even try to go out of your way to say, no, slavery wasn't a good thing, but you're still trying to say that they might have been better off being slaves because they had a family structure. What that family structure was, I have absolutely no clue. This guy this literally blows my mind that people can say this sort of thing in this day and age, and it's just okay. It's considered okay. And not only that it's just okay, but that there's people out there that still feel this, like this is the actual truth. They actually feel like slavery is a good thing. Even though they've never been slaves themselves, they've never lived back in that time period to know just how slavery is. So when I hear somebody like Cliven Bundy say these things, these ignorant things, I think to myself, instead of people getting angry at this guy and calling him all kinds of names and whatnot, we should actually sit him down, and educate this old fool, and give him lots of pictures because he's kind of old now. He's gonna need a lot of pictures to help learn. But educate him and people like him, and show them that slavery wasn't this great thing that other people have made it out to be. It was a very horrible and a very dark time for this country. And so, I think that should be the approach we should take. Not even giving people a mouthpiece or a digital media soapbox, so to speak. I understand why they do this. I understand why they put stuff like this on the news, because it's going to get ratings. They know people are going to get either outraged, or they're going to be all for it, and you're going to get all the loonies come out of the woodwork, and it's going to bring people on to either your blog page, your TV station, whatever. That's why they keep doing this. That's why they keep giving racists a mouthpiece to voice their ignorance and hatred. And I also believe that there's people within this news media organization, or business, that actually still feel that way towards people of color. I think we need to just start speaking out more often, and just getting out the word out that this kind of behavior just can't be tolerated anymore. If racists can sit out there and they can hold rallies, and the KKK can hold rallies and preach their hatred and their false sense of superiority over all the other races, then I think we should be able to voice our opinions and have these rallies and preach, the message of unity and togetherness, because because that's the only way we're going to ever incite any kind of real change. And we can use that in order to bring out all the closet racists that are obviously out there. I mean, every time we have a commercial that talks about, either interracial relationships, or just the family structure, and how our family structure isn't just a mom and a dad and a boy and a girl anymore. It's two moms and their children, or two dads and their children, or a black, husband and a white mother and their mixed biracial children. It's become a lot more now than it has been back in the Leave It to Beaver days, and some people are still trying to cling to that bullshit, even though even back then it wasn't all it was cracked up to be either. The family structure back then wasn't all it was cracked up to be. But yeah, people are still trying to cling to that, and every time you get one of these commercials that actually tries to be positive about the whole thing, all these closet, racist and keyboard racists come out of the internet and come out of the woodwork to spew their hate. And it's sad, because a lot of these people I bet in their regular lives don't let other people know that they actually feel this way, that they actually hate blacks or Hispanics or Asians, or Indians or whatever. And I think those closet racists need to be brought out of the closet by force if necessary, because we need to stop tolerating this bullshit. I'm getting tired of hearing about it on the news and seeing these people come out and say these things, and then watch the news companies just sit back with a bowl of popcorn just watching the shit play out without actually trying to challenge what some of these people are saying with actual logic, and asking them questions that they know they don't want to answer, because it's going to not only, it's not only going to pull out their ignorance, but it's also going to show how they don't even believe what's coming out of their mouth. Because I guarantee you, as soon as you apply some of these outlandish claims about slavery to these same people that are talking about it positively, as soon as you apply it to them and put them in that situation from a hypothetical standpoint, I guarantee you're going to see a lot of people try to backtrack and try to talk around and not address what they just said. They're going to contradict themselves. I can practically see it happening, and I wish someone would challenge these people when they get up and start talking about this sort of thing. So anyway, I'm breaking out of here. I've talked long enough on this. I'm going around in circles. So I'm Agent O. Leave your comments or whatever. Let's start a discussion about this, because I want to hear what other people want to say. And if you're racist and you want to bring that sort of shit to the conversation, then go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say, because I guarantee you I will turn around in those comments and I will challenge everything you say, and I'll show just how ignorant you sound. So I'm out. Peace.